and the Orion Wars ceased and were terminated, but the games continued. And those of us that were playing the games of light and dark there in Orion were asked if we would continue the games here in the outer edge of this solar system that was way far away from the galactic center and in much lower vibrations also. And on the edges of the galaxies, you have far more density, far more gravitation. It's kind of like being on the end of a merry-go-round. And if you're at the center point of that merry-go-round and everything's spinning, you can pretty much hold your focus, your balance, and everything like that. It's the higher vibrations. But as you're on the farther outer edges and you're spinning around, the gravitational force of the centrifuge that is going on is going to create gravity. It's going to sling you out. It's going to try to sling you off. You have density. You have a lot more, solidity, and you're not as spiritual. It's lower vibration, and so we came here to experience the much lower vibrations of this solar system at the edge of the galaxy. And Earth agreed to it. It's not Kamara, the embodiment, the soul overbody embodiment of Earth that agreed to it. But actually, that's later on. When we first came here, we first stopped at a place called Maldak, and Maldak was, and you can hear it called many other names, and it doesn't matter what you call it. We're all just trying to describe our memories. And anyway. There was a planet that was perfect that we first inhabited, and it was between Mars and Jupiter. And it was named Maldak, and we went there and we played our games again. And we always start off at the very bottom when we're starting off in civilizations. It's not like we start off and ready to jump in spaceships and take off. We go there and we get dropped off, and then we find whatever bodies, physical forms that we're going to inhabit, and we perfect those physical forms, and we expand the numbers of those participating, the amount of souls that can come in and participate by expanding the population. And genetically we modify and grow and grow and grow. And it's how it's done. We do it here. We've been doing it here. Anyway, we finally got to the point where we were creating all these weapons again, and we blew that one up. And it was needed that we had another need for another planet, and so we ended up coming to this one. And you hear the stories of Jehovah and the 144,000, the original souls that came here for this experiment. And a lot of people are starting to remember. A lot of the light workers are starting to remember. And a lot of us have remembered. It's just like we haven't put all the pieces back together yet. It was kind of interesting when I was at Mount Shasta, and there was a channeling going on from, I forget the lady's name, but she was channeling one of the Indians that's very famous from several hundred years back, and he turns speaking to Standing Elk and says, "You were one of the original 144,000 coming to this planet." And I was like, I am too. I remember that. And that's what we're here doing now, is we're trying to bring us back to another point of ascension. And anyway, we came to this planet and we experimented with many, many different types of life forms, bodies, and we came up through plant and animal kingdoms and all that sort of stuff. Not really so much into the animal kingdom for the advanced souls that have been doing this for a while. We're more coming into the physical form and trying to find out which bodies would suit us. And we tried many different types of bodies, and they're starting to dig them up around the planet now. You're starting to see people that were really kind of long and lanky, and then some that were giants, and some. We tried all different types of bodies before we found suitable ones that we could reincarnate very easily into, and that's the human form that we presently have. Yes, the Anunnaki were experimenting also, and yes, human physical form has been part of that experiment. And yes, we have reptilian genes and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's all part of the same story. But what I'm trying to explain here is about why we had duality and what this is all about. So anyway, during Mu, we had a lot of ETs here, and the ETs were they were allowing us to play our various duality games, but they saw the resources on the planet, and they also were looking for territories, and they came here wanting to dominate and control and even fight with each other. And many of us remember the various space battles that were going on overhead, and the ships, more fourth dimensional ships, more physical form ships, not necessarily light ships, hard ships that were going over and having their laser wars and stuff like that. And we're destroying the planet, killing a lot of us. And we went inside the caves and we hid from them, and they're starting to find these places over in Turkey where we were. And a lot of us here on the planet are having, or have had memories and dreams of those wars where it wasn't necessarily us. We weren't quite as highly evolved at that point, although we were working side by side with many of the ETs. Our technologies, because we weren't as highly evolved, we didn't have as much of we didn't have our own space technologies. It's kind of like what's going on now. We've got people from outer space, from other civilizations here with their spaceships, and then our government has got their own, the secret space program. But the standard man does not have his own at this time, and that's kind of what was going on there. I mean, we had reached a level of development. We were also vibrating at a higher rate. I mean, when we talk fourth, fifth dimensional and stuff like that, and then third dimensional. Even then, we were far more spiritual than we have been these past few thousand years since Atlantis. Atlantis was about further separation, further individuality, and going into ego, really forgetting who we were. And we did that, and we're coming out of that right now. So anyway, back to the story. During Mu, we had many space battles that were just about destroying the planet. And there was a small ascension that occurred during that time. In all the previous worlds on Earth until now, Mu, Lemuria, and Atlantis, there's only been like 8,000 all total ascended masters that have activated their chakras and stepped into the higher dimensions. But we were already in a much higher state of dimensional awareness back then. So there really wasn't that big of a need to, at that time, or even in Lemuria. I mean, granted, there's masters that were fully enlightened, that were still remembering or had reached a point of remembering who we were, because you forget. The longer you've been here, the more easy it is to forget. It's just like, a lot of people, forget what it was like as children, forget being in your diapers or looking at your hands or feet, or, I remember trying to pull my toes up to my mouth and bite my toenails, or sticking my foot behind my head and all those things. I still remember all that. A lot of people forget. And that's what happens after many lifetimes here in Earth School, is we constantly are forgetting. And we forgot who we were, and that's the whole point of the experiment and duality. We had, both sides of the negativity going here, but not in the heavy negativity that would be unleashed as we descended into the lower vibrations and forgot our spiritualism more and more and more. So anyway, we went through Mu, and then we rebuilt civilization in Lemuria. And during the Lemurian times, we're really starting to get used to these physical forms that we have now, these human bodies that we now inhabit. And the call was that we forgot more of who we were. And that didn't really happen until Atlantis. And yes, Lemuria lasted a long time, Mu lasted a long time, Atlantis lasted a long time, but we were called to go into total separation and go into ego and absolutely forget who we were. The ones who anchored the dark, they really understood the power of manifestation. They still remembered the power of coming together in ceremony. And that's what a lot of things like the Bohemian Grove, the Illuminati's coming together to do ceremony and rituals, to focus their intent on what it is that they wish to manifest. And they were called Illuminati because they remembered those rituals. And you had light Illuminati and you had dark Illuminati. You had those that held the light. And then you had a luminary. You had those that were souls that were returning and always making balance in the duality games that the Illuminati were holding. And it's all about experiencing all there is. And part of the war games we play, part of the technology that we've experienced for so long, is to experience the absolute separation, to experience all that is, to experience the negativity, to experience the disconnect from source. And the Illuminati themselves knew that we are eternal beings and that we reincarnated. And they also control the churches, and they control the monetary systems, and they control the war machines, and they control everything. Monsanto's controlling the food. That's Illuminati. You have BP controlling oil, and that's Illuminati. And you know, it's Illuminati's everywhere. That's what controls the planet, so we can experience the duality and to make balance and to keep in check the powers that be, so that we don't blow up the planet. You had various previously ascended luminaries that were coming back and reincarnating over and over and over to hold the light wherever the darkness was getting a little bit too powerful. And there's many of us that have been doing that for quite some time. But remember, there's only been 8,000 ascended beings in all previous Earth history in all the worlds until the year 2009. And in 2009, we were called to ascend as many people on the planet as we possibly could. And when I say ascending, all I'm talking about is to activate one's chakras in their physical form and start the process of enlightenment. What you're doing is you're expanding the light body at that point. The initiations are nothing more than an expansion of the light body. And by having another number of 8,000 people minimum on planet in 2009 activating, we began the collective planetary and human ascension. And that was necessary for this time, for the end times, for us to take this to the next level. So the call is now for the Illuminati to remember who you are. You volunteered to anchor the dark. This is what we came here to do. It was all just a game. It's all just an experiment. Yes, it seems like a very emotional game, a very deep game, a very scary game. And it does when you are not empowered, you're not enlightened, and you're freaked out about losing this body, and you think that, you know, death is the end all. And really, you're just stepping into another level of existence, another dimension at that point. Well, we're coming up on 30 minutes here, so let's Let's hold off on this one until the 30-minute mark. We'll start a new video here. And we are at 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.